Excellent. Here we are, and we're live on Facebook. I'd like to introduce you to Jodi Taylor, and my name's Hazel Cushion, and we're going to be talking about all things writing and publishing today. But first of all, Happy New Year, everybody.
Yes, Happy New Year, everyone.
So we're hoping that you will ask questions in the comments below, so please do that. But first of all, I'd like to talk to Jodi about her own publishing journey and how she managed to become an international best-selling author almost overnight. So Jodi, can you tell us a bit about what got you started in writing and how you published your first book?
Well, I retired to Turkey, as you do, to own and run a small hotel there. And then we sold it, and I decided to stay in Turkey. And typically, having legitimately reached a point in my life where I could just sit under a tree and have waiters bring me long cold drinks and enjoy the sunshine, that was fine for about 3 weeks, and then I got bored, so I thought I'd write a book, as you do. I'd never had any particular desire to write a book because, take it from me, writing gets you into an awful lot of trouble sometimes, which I will tell you about one day. But I thought I'd give it a go, and it was more to see if I had the mental discipline and the stamina to write a full-length novel. So away I went. And I mentioned it to some friends of mine. And at the time I was living in Fethiye, which is a lovely place. And we used to meet in the fish market every Tuesday for lunch, which usually started around about 1 o'clock and lasted until 8:30, 9 o'clock at night, because it does. And I mentioned that I had written a book and that I'd hawked it around various literary agents, where it had been met with stunning indifference, if not completely ignored. And I was having a huge whinge about this. And a friend of mine said, well, our daughter self-published on Amazon. She's doing quite well. Why don't you give it a go? And I said, oh, no, I couldn't possibly do that. And somebody put a glass of wine into my hand, and apparently I agreed to give it a go. So I did. It was considerably easier than I thought it would be. And 5 days after I sent it off to Amazon, it appeared on the Amazon site, where I looked at it about 25 times a day because I just couldn't leave it alone at all. And it started to go up the charts, which was alternately exhilarating and terrifying. I can't tell you how scary it is to put something out there for the world to view and comment on. And as I say, I was alternately exhilarated and excited. And it started to climb the charts, and all these reviews started to come in. And there's a very long and complicated story about how I did everything really, really wrong. And it all turned out really, really right. But it doesn't reflect well on me or my levels of intelligence. So I'm not actually going to mention that just at the moment. And it went to #1 on Amazon. I was highly chuffed. I emailed all my family in capital letters because, you know, that's such a big no-no, but I wanted to capture their attention. And while it was at #1, I received a telephone call from somebody called Hazel Cushion of Accent Press, offering me a contract. And that's a very pared down version of how I came to be published mainstream, which makes me look considerably more intelligent and more in control of the process than I actually was at the time. How about that? Will that do?
Yeah, that's excellent. But for you, self-publishing worked really, really well, didn't it?
It did, yes.
You know, it got you noticed, and we noticed you because you had 400 5-star reviews, which was fantastic. The fact that you'd actually given your book away for free without meaning to got you a huge readership, which was fantastic.
Yes, well, I have to say, actually, I would advise anybody, through my own personal experience, if you're thinking of writing a book and putting it out there on Amazon and all the other sites as well that Smashwords did for me, make the first one free. Initially, I charged for it on Amazon because I couldn't work out their pricing system, but put it free on Smashwords. And I didn't realize that there are any number of sites out there that make it their business to capture and read and review free books on various websites. And we are talking about 2013, but my book, Just One Damn Thing, got far more attention being free than it ever did in the week or so that it was actually 99 pence, which was because I couldn't work out the Amazon pricing system, but we won't go into that.
Look, a couple of quick questions have come in, so I'm going to intersperse our chat with questions as they come in, okay?
Intersperse away.
So Craig Newton says, do you have any regrets regarding any of your characters? I think that's not necessarily about writing and publishing per se, but we'll let it slip in, okay?
I'm just scanning back through my books. I don't think so. I suspect everybody says, did you really mean to kill off Helen Foster? And yes, I did. It was sad, and I had a bit of a sniffle while I was doing it, but I don't actually regret it. So Craig, no, I don't think I do.
Nigel Bindoff is asking, if you'd had negative comments on self-publishing your first book, do you think it would have put you off? I mean, I think you do get negative comments because you're never going to please everyone all the time.
Yes, I do. And no, I don't think it would, because while I was writing the book, I was enjoying it so much. And it's such a feeling of power as well. If you have a slightly wonky personality like mine, the feeling of power over all these people, and they'll do everything that you want them to, mostly, is incredible and very enjoyable. So I really enjoyed writing the first book. And I was actually halfway through the second one anyway, when I published the first one on Amazon, because I'd wasted 3 or 4 months trying to interest the literary world in my masterpiece, and they just remained completely uninterested.
Ellen and Alison are both asking similar questions, so I'm combining these. Alison asked, did you self-edit your first book? And Ellen asked, did you have an editor for self-publishing, proofreading, etc.? Now, I know this is something that you're very keen on talking about because it's important.
Yes. This will not be a short answer. Yes, I did. I paid to have my book edited professionally. I went to an organisation in Oxford called Writers' Workshop, and I think they're now called Jericho Writers, but I'm not sure. And they had several marvellous editors there, and I had to pay for it, but it was money well spent because they were rigorous. And I went into it with no expectations of any kind. I thought I'd get back a kind of, oh, well, you obviously enjoyed writing it. And that's the main thing, isn't it, dear? And I didn't get anything like that. I got 16 pages of close type. I'll say criticism, but that sounds rather negative. It was also enthusiasm and suggestions, and covered the entire spectrum from the whole story arc right down to my somewhat eccentric use of commas. But most of all, they were so enthusiastic, and they loved it, or said they loved it anyway, and encouraged me to carry on. And I actually had the second book with them, and they edited that as well. And although I thought I'd been fairly rigorous and I had gone through it to the best of my ability, there was loads of stuff in there, and they really made me tighten it up and look at my punctuation as well. And I would say to anybody, get your book professionally edited. You'll be astonished at what they find. you'll pay for it. And if you can't afford to have it professionally edited, then I would say give your manuscript to somebody who doesn't like you and ask them to read it. Don't hand it to members of your family because they'll say, oh, darling, it's wonderful, and it won't be. So give it to somebody from whom you will get impartial and not unkind advice, but frank advice, because there will be stuff in there of which you are not aware. Because it's your baby, there will be stuff in there, your favorite bits of prose, wonderful paragraphs that you've composed and you think just shines like a star, and it'll come back and they'll say, oh no, that's got to go, and that's got to go, and that's got to go. But at the end of the day, you've got a much better book. Shall I shut up now?
Yeah, because the questions are coming in fast and furious, to be honest. So I'm going to scroll through those if that's all right. So Suzanne is saying that she's worried because her grammar and punctuation are a bit ropey. Well, trust me, most authors are, you know, that's what editors are there for. What your job is as the author is to come up with the amazing creative plot, characters and all that sort of thing. Everyone else can sort out all the grammar and punctuation. So don't let that put you off. You know, I'm a publisher, I'm dyslexic, I can't spell. Jodi's a very successful author. She has no idea what to do with commas. Don't let that worry you, because it's all about the characters and things like that that really matter. And what I would also say, and this is advice I have given to other authors, is come up with a nom de plume before you really sit down and write, because then it's not you writing that book, and you know, you don't have to worry about what your friends and family and people like that would think about it. So, you know, just come up with some wild and wonderful nom de plume, and it really will free you up to let those creative juices flow, I think.
Yes, just Google it first.
Yeah, yeah, Google it first.
Otherwise, you end up with the same name as the famous American porn star.
Yeah, well, that is.
And your mother gets very confused.
It's so a few writing questions for you, Jodi. What comes to you first, plot or characters?
Plot.
Yeah?
Yes.
Oh, that's
yes.
Interesting. Okay. And Alison Webb asks, how do you set yourself a writing plan? I think she thinks there's times you don't write, which is an interesting concept. But anyway.
Do you mean have I a kind of daily regime in which I write between, say, 9 and 12, and then pause for a nutritious and well-balanced lunch, and then write from 1 until 5, something like that? Because that doesn't happen at all. I think I'm quite a bad example, actually, because I just write whenever I feel like it. For some reason, I have no idea why, I write better in the morning. So I tend to write in the morning and do my research and admin and whatnot in the afternoon. I've no idea why that is, and I'm not actually a morning person. When I worked for North Yorkshire County Library Services, nobody came anywhere near me until I'd had at least 2 cups of tea in the morning. But that's the way I work. I know there are authors who have a very structured day and find strength in their structure. I'm sorry, but I'm a kind of wander around the place, grab a notebook, write a paragraph, have a think about it, and then go off and do something else. Sorry if that's disappointing.
Catherine says that she loves all the books and has introduced them to the library where she works, and they've gone down a storm. Thank you, Catherine. We love you.
Yes, libraries forever.
Yes. I don't know if you know, but Jodi used to work as a facilities manager for the library services in Yorkshire. So very, very keen on libraries. And we have some good news coming on that soon as well. And Nigel's asking, how many words would you say make a book? Well, that's actually a really, really good question, Nigel, because as a publisher, I would get some brilliant submissions that I would just have to reject because they were only 45,000 words, which is kind of half a book. So yeah, a book needs to be a minimum of 70,000 words really to be publishable. So aim for 70, can go up to 120. I wouldn't go any further than that because then they become too fat and publishers don't like them because they're too expensive to produce. Sandra is asking you, what character misbehaves the most and never does what you want? Well, that must be Markham, surely.
Well, he and I are kind of partners in crime. And a lot of what he does is with my encouragement anyway. A character who would never do what I wanted was Russell Checkland. I wanted him to, I actually wanted him when I started to write the book. He was going to be sober, studious, helpful, and the whole character just ran away with me. The original beginning of the book was actually quite different to the book that was published, because Russell was going to be much more conventional. But it was such fun to write somebody who just said the first thing that came into his head, that he actually became somebody else. So yeah, completely lost control of Russell Checkland, I'm afraid.
Anna Maria Ball is asking, how do you determine the tense and the point of view?
St Mary's is easy because the point of view is the narrator, and pretty much everything is seen through her eyes. And I have great fun occasionally making her a very unreliable narrator. So there's her version of what she thinks is happening. And if I've done my job properly, sometimes the reader is aware that that isn't quite what's going on. The Time Police and A Bachelor Establishment were written in the third person, which initially I found quite restricting until I realized that because it was in the third person, I could write scenes where certain characters weren't actually present. When I write in the third person, I do have to be quite firm with myself and make it very clear from whose point of view the scene is being viewed, because I tend to forget. So I have to be quite stern with myself. So I hope that the reader is not aware of any wavering in points of view, but I think my editor picks up that sort of thing, fortunately, fingers crossed.
I think she does. Jane is a Yorkshire girl living in New Zealand and working in the local library, where she's always pushing your books onto her patrons.
Thank
That's
you.
the story and your books. And a couple of other people have also said they work in the libraries. So thank you very much, all the lovely people working in libraries, promoting Jodi there. That really is really lovely. And Susan was asking about, do you write in notebooks first, or does it go straight on the screen?
It depends. When I wrote my first book, I wrote most of it longhand because I do write better longhand. Whether because I'm slower, it gives my brain chance to get to the end of the sentence properly, I don't know. These days, if I'm not quite sure of what I'm writing, if I'm feeling my way a little, if I'm not quite sure what's going to happen next, again, longhand. If I'm fairly certain of the scene and I know what's going to happen, then I just bang it in on the laptop. When I've finally got the story nailed and tight, when I start to go through it again, then I tend to print out chapters and look at them, because I get a different point of view when I look at words on a page than when I look at a screen. And I don't know why this is, but it is actually easier to edit and get an overview of a chapter when you've actually got the pages in front of you rather than looking at a screen. I don't know why that is.
Jennifer's asking, would you ever write for young adults?
I think the story would dictate it. If I had a story in my head and it was suitable for young adults, then yes. I don't think I would ever sit down and think, right, today I'll write a story for young adults, because I don't think that would work. I don't have a great deal of control over what goes on in my head. I'm just a conduit through which it passes onto the printed page.
Lots of great questions coming in here. How do you keep, Stephanie Gamber asks, how do you keep track of past developments and jumps?
You know, I'd love to be able to say, oh, I have an extensive spreadsheet, or I have a card index, or I have a long roll of wallpaper that goes across, and I don't have any of that. If I think I've referred to something before, I actually physically have to get up and find the book and find the reference and find out how I described a character or what I said about this event. So again, I'm afraid probably distressingly disappointing for you all. I'm not well organized and it's all up here.
Chrissy is asking, and this is a slightly difficult one. Do you have any control over pricing of your books? I buy Kindle until the Kindle price outstrips the paper book, and then I have to change. So very frustrating.
If I can go back to the self-publishing thing again, one of the many advantages of self-publishing is that you as the author have complete control over the cover design, the price, the blurb, the marketing strategy, everything. The advantage of having a publisher, of course, is that you have the mighty machinery of your publisher behind you. But they also have the final say on things like price, cover design, etc. I'm not saying they don't listen to me. They are extremely polite and I'm listened to with close attention. But at the end of the day, the final decision is theirs.
Yeah, and I think also there is an issue as well with Kindle pricing, in as much as all the work for editing the book and cover design and all those sort of things, all those costs, all the marketing, they're still the same whether it's a Kindle book or whether it's a physical book. So, you know, the price of Kindle books has risen, and rightly so, to be honest, because it still costs as much to produce. So I do feel the pain for some Kindle readers, but I also understand why the publishers need to charge the prices they do so that they can support the publishing of Jodi's books in the way that they do. Angela Jane is asking, do you have to do extensive research for the St. Mary's series? How much time do you spend researching compared to writing?
Oh, ages and ages. And then I get halfway through a scene and I suddenly think, oh, I need to find out about such and such. For instance, today I have been researching, I won't give too much away, Greek festivals and the sacred roles of Dionysus and Athena. And that's just arising out of something that I was writing this afternoon. So there's this formal research, like I did for the Battle of Hastings, when I drew maps and read everything I could find and plotted where the pods would be and what they would be able to see from there, what the terrain was, how the battle went. There was pages and pages of it. And then something as simple as he ran up the stairs. Well, what sort of stairs are they? Are they stone? Are they wooden? Are they a spiral? In which case, which way round do they go? And then when he gets to the door at the top, is it a wooden door? Does it have a handle? Does it have a latch? Does it have a knob? You know, it's 1573. Did they have doorknobs in 1573? So off I go again. So yes, masses and masses of research, about 2% of which actually finds its way into the books. I always remember I spent a whole day on the War of Jenkins's Ear, because who wouldn't? And it ended up in the book as a throwaway line. While Peterson went off to investigate the War of Jenkins's Ear, I did such and such. So yes, masses for St. Mary's, a fair bit for the Time Police as well, on a more scientific note, the nature of time, the manipulation of time and so forth. And then with the Nothing Girl and the Something Girl, I was researching donkeys for weeks, because they're not easy, you know, not easy at all. And then with the Elizabeth Cage books, I'm just rummaging around for psychic phenomena and sinister happenings. So it's really all go at this end.
Anna Maria Ball is asking, how long does it take you to finish a book from draft until it goes to the editor? And do you have more than one book on the go? Well, she's in for quite an answer here.
Yes, about 6 months, if I'm allowed to get on with it, Hazel. If my agent doesn't ring me every half hour saying, is it finished yet? And yes, I usually have at least 2 or 3 on the go, because then it's a kind of holiday. If I get bogged down with St Mary's, I can go off and write something about Elizabeth Cage or vice versa. And I intersperse them with Christmas and other short stories as well. In fact, today's good news is that I finished next year's Christmas story, and I should be sending it off to Headline on Monday. And it's called The Toast of Time Before Hazel Asks.
I know, I'm really looking forward to that one. I think that's going to be great. Carletta asks, when you introduce a new character, do you already know whether they're a goodie or a baddie?
No, I don't. Isabella Barclay was obviously a baddie right from the word go, as was Ronan. Dottle morphed quite slowly into somebody bad. I don't think she was bad to begin with, but she was bad by the time I finished with her, and I killed her off with a tree, which was great fun.
Yeah, no, that was a particularly good one. Jessica Holmes is asking, and I will start laughing hollowly at this point, bearing in mind that only a couple of days ago we had a conversation with me urging you not to do anything until Monday. Everyone else was taking a holiday till January the 4th, and you were just going to sit on your sofa and eat chocolates and read books. She's saying, do you ever take a holiday from writing?
I take agent-sanctioned holidays.
You don't really, do you?
I'm allowed to do that, but no, I had all sorts of plans for 2020. I was going to go to Salisbury. I was going to go to Oxford and Bath, and just generally enjoy historic cities and have a mooch around for ideas and atmosphere. And of course, none of that ever happened. So I didn't take a holiday at all last year. Actually, I don't think I took one the year before either. It's not a case of physically going on holiday, because if I do go away somewhere, I have to take my brain with me, and it never stops. So as I explained to Hazel, but she doesn't listen, it's easier for me to stay at home with all my notes and my stuff around me, where my brain can function more efficiently. Hazel.
Yes. Helen is asking, would you ever write a book from Ronan's point of view?
Oh, somebody mentioned that the other day, and I spent a good half hour thinking about that afterwards. Before that came up, I did have a thought regarding Clive Ronan, which I am still thinking about, because mine is not a lightning brain. But let's not close the door on that yet.
Stephanie's asking, will Jenny ever meet Max?
No, I don't think so, because Max is slightly in the future, and Jenny is contemporary. So no, probably not. Not unless something goes horribly wrong anyway.
Let's see what else people might be saying. Have you ever met someone in real life and thought, gosh, you would fit well into St Mary's Time Police, Frogmorton, etc.?
No, I don't think so. The only time something even remotely sinister like that has happened to me, I was talking to my offspring. I was getting some inside information on security and how to garrot people and all the sort of things he knows lots of things about. And I'd sent him something to read, and he said, oh yeah, it was really good, I enjoyed it, but I think you missed a trick. And he described somebody so fully and so completely that I saw the person emerge in front of me, and I thought, yes. And even at that late stage, I yanked my character out and inserted the new improved version, and this person was really quite unpleasant. So I'm looking forward to developing that further. That's the closest I've ever come to basing something on somebody in real life.
Susan is asking, how do you come up with your characters' names?
They just come to me. there was one character, and I can't remember who it was now, but I couldn't get the name right at all. And because I couldn't get the name right, I couldn't get the character right. Normally, I'm just writing away and the name falls out of my pen onto the page. And I think, yes, yes, that will do nicely. So mostly they just come to me. A little bit worrying, isn't it?
And let's talk about cover design when you first self-published. Can you talk to people who are thinking of self-publishing about what they should be looking at for their covers?
Yes, you will probably, unless you have a pet graphic artist somewhere, you'll probably have to pay for a cover design. And I would say spend as much as you can possibly afford on the design, because this is your shop window. This is how you attract people to look at your book in the first place. And when I self-published, I went with Smashwords, who were brilliant, and they undertook to publish my book on every platform that wasn't Amazon. So I did Amazon separately, and Smashwords covered everybody else: Barnes and Noble, Kobo, Nook, whatever, Apple. And they offered a service in that they would format the book for me, which I didn't really feel competent to do because I'm not technically able at all. So the book is formatted for ebook, and also another member of the team offered to do a cover for me, and he offered three options. There was a basic cover, which was a stock photograph that he would find from somewhere, put on the font, the title, your name, etc., and that was a basic price. Then there was a medium where there was he would take a photograph and then just manipulate it and put in artistic effects. And then there was the all singing, all dancing, very expensive version where he actually designed the cover from scratch. And I went with the medium version, and he sent me a little form, and I had to describe what the book was about and key points. And I remember I mentioned dinosaurs, an old stately home, and lashings of tea. And the design that he sent me back was of a giant teacup with the steam swirling out, and then a kind of montage across the top of dinosaurs, World War I, the library at Alexandria, and it was lovely. I mean, he hit the nail on the head right on the very first try, and I wrote back and said, yes, this is fabulous, go with that. And that's how I came to get my first cover, which I gather was held in enormous affection by many, many readers who absolutely adored the teacup, which I thought was inspired.
Which will answer Alison Clement's question of what has been your favourite cover style since the start?
Well, I think we just covered that, didn't we? I mean, I love Zoe's covers. They're very striking and they're very dynamic. And when you see a wall of my books all together, it's quite an arresting effect. But you always remember your first, don't you?
You do indeed. And as a publisher, I would also say to anyone looking to self-publish, go on to Amazon for the genre that you're writing and look at the top 20 covers in that genre, and have a look at them and see what style they are, and look at ones that you like and dislike and things like that. But basically, you don't want to reinvent the wheel. You want to look at what's selling right now, and if your cover looks a bit like one of those, then readers will think, oh, I've read a book that looks like that and I enjoyed it, and you're more likely to engage your readers. So, you know, I've seen some absolutely shocking self-published covers because people haven't done their market research. You want to actually look at the genre, look what's selling in that genre, and do something fairly similar would be my top tip. Now, Keith is saying that because he has to write a lot of business reports and formal stuff, how can he break that habit? I would suggest that he uses the nom de plume trick that I suggested earlier, that once you stop being Keith and start becoming something much more sexy, then you might find that, sorry, I don't know if you're sexy or not, Keith, but, you know, find a different voice. Have you got any top tips?
Would you actually say change gender? I mean, if you are Keith Smith, write as Daphne Jones.
Yeah, I mean, I think just being someone different really, really helps, because it just frees you from all your friends and families and your own expectations of what it is you should be writing. Um, so hang on, let's see what else is coming in. Matt's asking, are the deaths predetermined? I think we've already covered that, really. You don't necessarily know, do you, when you start?
No, I don't.
Okay, and Nigel is asking, have you ever got into trouble for using a place or person's names and had to change it before publishing? I don't think so.
I don't think I have, actually.
No, that's a disaster.
No, not so far anyway.
Yeah, that's a disaster waiting to happen. And Joe is asking, and yeah, this is a tricky one, Joe, but what genre is Jodi? Well, I think we all have to accept that Jodi is just unique. And I think that's the only reason, to be honest, why she ever struggled to get published, because publishers like to know what a genre is, and bookshops like to know exactly what genre a book is, so they know what shelf to put it on. And I would say that Jodi's covers several genres.
Yes. And do not suggest that everybody buys hundreds of copies of your book and puts one on every shelf, because that doesn't go down at all well.
Christina's asking, did the shift into the alternative universe trip you up much with the storyline and assumptions about history of characters or their futures?
Not really, because I always meant to do it. I wrote the third book with the shift into the alternative universe and sent it off, and confidently expected that my editor of the time would wing it back to me saying, no, Taylor, you've gone too far this time, you can't do that. And I had actually roughed out an alternative ending, but he didn't, which slightly surprised me. It surprised me quite a lot, actually. Really caught me on the hop. I had to sign a piece of paper saying I would never do it again, ever, which I was happy to do. So she's in this universe for good. That will never happen again. But I was a bit gobsmacked that I got away with it, quite honestly.
Anna Maria Ball is saying, do publishers look through self-published books when looking for new authors? As a publisher, I will answer that one. Yes, we absolutely did. And that is exactly how we found Jodi Taylor. We used to trawl Amazon lists and see who was getting great reviews and things like that. And to be honest, most self-published authors, if they are offered a publishing contract, are quite pleased to accept one, because they're writers and they enjoy writing, and they don't enjoy all the marketing and all the other stuff that comes with having to self-publish. So you know, it worked out really well. We were able to take Jodi on, and it freed you up to do a lot more writing, really, didn't it?
Yes, it did. Yeah.
Joe's asking, is Honey on the move? And I think yes, she is the answer. I'm just going to sneak off and get Honey so that Joe can have a quick look, because I know it is a special request.
So this isn't really all about me at all then, is it?
No, I mean, come on, let's get real. This is really the Honey show. So I'll leave you talking briefly about your publishing while I go and find a doggo.
Right, okay then. Well, talking about, hang on a minute, she's just grabbing the dog. Here she comes. There's no point in me getting started. Come on, Honey.
Here we are, Honey. Say hello. Hello, everybody. Okay, back we go again. There we are.
Not really about me at all then. I'll just sit here.
Okay, so some more questions have come in and we're back to being sensible. Kim says, your characters are so dear to so many of us. When I finish a book, I miss them and they make me laugh and cry. Do you put as much effort into the characters' dialogue as you do into historical research and plot development, or is it just a natural skill?
Dialogue, I'm told not to mention this because Hazel says it makes people nervous when I start talking about the voices in my head. But I actually hear the dialogue in my head. Two people are speaking to me, or three or four, depending on how many are taking part in the conversation. So yes, I research the facts, but the dialogue is beamed to me, presumably from my subconscious, which is a little bit worrying, isn't it?
No, I think it's one of the things you do absolutely brilliantly, actually. I think it's the way your characters come across so authentically because the dialogue is so natural. And that is
Because
such
I hear voices
a...
in my head. Yep, fine, okay.
Yeah, you keep hearing those voices. We love those voices. They're fantastic. Um, so if someone's just, you know, got writer's block and they're facing that blank page, have you got any top tips to get them going?
Um, I do actually, and this usually works for me, although my usual problem is too many ideas and not enough to be able to sort them out and whatever. But if I really can't think of what to do next, in my head, I call it suddenly a shot rang out. And I mean, obviously it's not an actual shock, but a shot, but it is something unexpected and out of the blue. Um, and if you have something startling, unexpected, dramatic, something that can turn the whole scene around and you can see it from a completely different point of view, that can be quite helpful. So, I mean, even if you're writing a nice, cozy village mystery with lovely people and you can't think of anything to write, suddenly a shot rang out. Well, what happens next? Is somebody dead? If so, why? Who could possibly have killed them? You can't use any of it, but it shakes up your thoughts and you start to see people and their actions and their motives from a completely different point of view. If that makes any sense. If I'm just blathering, then just
No,
shut me
I
up.
think that's a really good tip. Jessica Holmes is asking, when your books are translated into other languages, do the translators have to consult you much?
No, I don't think they consult me at all, actually. I have got one or two people out there who read Spanish and Italian and German who write to me and say, yes, the translators actually made quite a good job of it, which is nice. I've got a little bit of German, but not enough to be able to read a book. And of course, with translators, it's not just a case of translating the book. They have to keep to the spirit of the book as well. And there have been complaints that not a lot of the jokes work in other languages, but never mind. I don't worry about that.
Susan's asking, have you ever done a creative writing course in the past? And if so, was it useful?
I haven't, and therefore I can't answer that. But anything that people think it's writing that is the problem, but I always think it's what goes on in here that you've got to get going. If there are no words in your head, then nothing's going to emerge on the sheet as you start to write. So creative writing is really, really good because it teaches you, I believe, all sorts of exercises and tips for getting your brain going. One of the ones I've heard is describe a chair using only words that begin with B. Well, that gets the brain going, doesn't it?
And from my point of view, Susan, I did do a MA in creative writing when I turned 40. And that is what ended up setting up Accent Press as a publishing company. I would never have got into publishing if I hadn't have done that creative writing course. And I have to say, it was the most fun I've had with my clothes on. It was utterly brilliant. Education's wasted on the young. If anyone's thinking of doing a creative writing course, I would say go and do it. It was absolutely fantastic for me, and started a whole new life. So Keith says that Terry Pratchett used to say his jokes translated best into Czech. Well, I think you're published in Czech now as well, so that's good.
Hungarian.
Oh, Hungarian, okay. Alison's saying she's going to repeat Kim's question because it was a good one. Do you put much effort into the characters' dialogue as you do into the historical research? or does one get more investment than the other?
No, they're both different, but they're both equal. When I am describing historical events, I can be funny or serious or dramatic or bloody or whatever. When people are speaking, there is a purpose to them speaking. They're pushing the plot on. There might be a bit of exposition or building a character or whatever. So dialogue is extremely important, and I always try to keep it. If it's going to be dramatic, it's got to be very dramatic. If two people are having a row, they've got to really go at it, hammer and tongs. If people are being funny, it's got to be funny. So I put equal amounts because they are, I think, equally important and they complement each other.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. I think they're absolutely essential, that they go hand in glove, really, don't they? Nigel's asking, how far into a book have you got and thought, this is rubbish, and binned it or rewrote it?
I've had scenes where I've thought, no, this isn't going to work, and put them to one side. I never throw anything away. I lose lots of things, but I never actually throw anything away, because you never know when it might come in useful in the future. So I have, for each book, there is the title of the book, St. Mary's 13, which is what I'm writing at the moment, because I haven't got a title for it. And there is a file alongside it entitled Remnants, St. Mary's 13. And everything that I take out or can't use, or I'm not too sure about, scenes that haven't worked, go into the remnants file, because you never know when they might come in useful in the future. And also, it's easier to take stuff out if you're not deleting it irrevocably, because we writers are very fond of our prose. We love our words, and sometimes it's like murdering your child to take something out and destroy it. Whereas if you've just taken it and put it to one side, much easier to part with. And 2 months later, you look at the scene and think, yep, I did the right thing getting rid of that. It's not very good.
Yeah, no, that's great. At the last video chat, we were talking about you dictating to the computer. Have you had any success in that area?
Well, apparently Windows can do it. So I set it all up, and I spoke to my laptop, and it scrupulously recorded the first 3 lines, and then the little microphone symbol went out, and we just looked at each other for 10 minutes or so. Then it stopped working altogether because the sound went on my laptop, and that was hugely panic making, and I had to go and get that sorted out. When they finally fixed it, the microphone came back on again, and I can, using Windows, and it's the Windows key and something else that I've forgotten now, you can dictate to your laptop. I don't know if any, I'm sure the more perceptive among you will have noticed that I've got a bit of an accent, which makes dictating a little bit difficult. Some of the vowel sounds that the laptop has translated into words have been quite unusual, but it is useful. Really, I ought to get to grips with, is it dragon something or other, which is supposed to be very good.
I don't think it's called Dragon's Breath, but that's what I wanted to say.
I can only think of Dragon's Den or Dragon's Teeth because I've been watching Jason and the Argonauts, so just ignore me.
Janet's offering to transcribe. Janet, are you offering to transcribe this video chat? I'm not too sure what you're offering to transcribe. If you wanted to transcribe this video chat, then yes, we'd be very happy for you to do that. That would be wonderful. Gail says, has a character not done what you wanted him or her to do, no matter, hang on, I've just got to scroll down, how much you try to get them to behave?
It's never actually got that far. Especially with St. Mary's, I know my characters quite well by now. And there is a kind of something tickles at the back of your hindbrain, and little voice says, this character would never say that or do that. This is not right for this character. So then I have the choice either of completely changing what that character said or ascribing the dialogue to another one who would say that sort of thing. So yes, there is a kind of instinct that seems to stop me going too far down the wrong path.
Excellent. Okay. Janet's come back saying she was offering to transcribe the books, but heck yes, she'd do it. I'm afraid you can't transcribe the books, Janet, because of copyright and stuff like that. They're all copyrighted, and you'd have to liaise directly with the publishers on that. If you wanted to transcribe this video chat so that it was more accessible to people, then that would be absolutely marvelous, and we'd be very grateful if you wanted to do that. So that's great. A lot of people are telling us that it's Dragon Speech to Text is the software.
I knew it wasn't Dragon's Den.
Someone was asking what software you use to write your books, and I'm fairly certain it's just Word, isn't it?
It is just Word. I can't cope with anything complicated.
I know.
So yeah, it's just Word,
Yeah.
which is the industry standard, isn't it?
It is, absolutely. And to be honest, when we had Accent Press, we used to typeset all our books in Word as well. So yeah. Excellent. So I think it's lovely to know that we've got like 107 people watching this, which is absolutely...
I know, I'm amazed because apparently Doctor Who's on.
I know. I have to confess, I have never ever watched Doctor Who. I was the girl that hid behind the sofa because I found it too scary. And I've also never watched a single Star Wars film. And I've never seen an episode of Game of Thrones either. So I'm a total loser, really. I don't know how I ended up publishing a fantasy author. Christina says she'd rather watch us than, well, you rather than...
Oh, thank you. What a charming and perceptive person you must be.
Yes, lots of people are saying that they'd rather this than Doctor Who. Okay, I think we're going to make this the final question coming in. So, oh, hang on, it's disappeared. Everyone's commenting so fast. Sorry, let me just find that comment. It was basically saying, do you struggle with the pressure from fans? Do you find it difficult when people keep demanding more?
Honestly, yes, it is a bit. It's very nice, of course, that people read them so quickly and review them so quickly, and that most of the reviews are very favourable, for which a grateful author thanks you. But I must admit there have been one or two occasions on which I thought, oh God, 6 months to write, 6 hours to read, and they're wanting the next one already. To be fair, I don't want you feeling too guilty. I am normally about halfway through the next book by the time it's published anyway, so don't feel too sorry for me. It's just me having a bit of a grump.
No, I mean, it's I don't think you possibly could have imagined how fast your books would have grown and how big the fan base is now. It's
well, I didn't intend any of this. I mean, I was only ever going to write one book. That's why I killed them all off at the end of it, except for Markham, whom I killed off halfway through.
Yeah, no, I mean, it was great that we managed to talk you out killing them all off, and who can believe that book 13 in the series is coming out?
Well,
so
it will when I've written it, yes.
Angela is asking a question that has been asked before, but not on this chat. Will there be any more Frogmorton books?
I have one or two ideas. I don't have enough for a full-length book, I don't think. And the story's pretty well been told. But I do occasionally have a bit of an idea flash through my head, and the more astute among you will have realized I'm very fond of Russell Chetland, so I'm not saying we've heard the last of him. In fact, and I think I said on a previous chat, I was just sitting around one evening minding my own business, and the voices in my head started up again, and I had a sudden picture of Russell and Jenny sitting quietly one evening in their farmhouse and the phone ringing and Russell answering the phone to have Francesca say, "Oh my God, Russell, you've got to help me. I've just killed Christopher." And I thought, yes, that's quite a promising opening for a story. So we shall see. Time is my problem, and I am aware of the irony of that statement, but time is my enemy, I'm afraid.
But I mean, this has been an extraordinary year, and in this year coming up. I mean, we are in the new year now. You've got 3 big books out, plus the 2 hardback limited editions, plus a Christmas short story. So we've all benefited really from lockdown, haven't we? It's been wonderful that you've had so much time to write.
What, you speak for yourself. I've got lockdown hair and lockdown waistline.
Well, I keep cutting my hair myself, and it's getting shorter and shorter all the time.
Yes, it is. But I was just too polite to comment.
Yeah. Anyway, thank you everyone who's joined us this evening. It really has been lovely and great interaction. I love the fact that people can answer in the comment, ask questions and things like that. And it's just lovely that people are dialing in from all over the world. I mean, it feels like a real family, doesn't it? It's lovely.
We should do another one.
Yeah, when do you want to do another one?
Next month, maybe.
Yeah, all right. If we do one a month, I think that would work out really well. And, you know, it's just been super. So thank you so much, everybody. Yes. Good luck with your writing. Please let Jodi.
I am quite evangelical about this. If you feel you've got a book in you, then you owe it to yourself to write it. You don't have to publish it. You don't have to do anything with it, but you will get an enormous amount of pleasure in just writing it. So go ahead, make this the year you write your book.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, let something really positive come out of this really difficult time. And, you know, it's never been easier to self-publish. There is no shame in self-publishing. It gets your book out there, it gets people reading it. So if you can't get a publishing contract, please don't worry about self-publishing. I think it offers a lot of opportunities for people.
Yes, but if you could make the point, Hazel, that self-publishing is not vanity publishing. Yes. It costs nothing to publish a book. Even Amazon won't charge you to publish your book.
Well, it does cost in as much as you do need to employ a good editor and a good cover designer.
Yes, but the actual physical publishing, people who write to you and say, oh, give us £2,000 and we'll publish your book, don't give them £2,000.
No, absolutely not. But, you know, you're a prime example of how it can be hugely successful for authors. And, you know, I think all your fans are grateful that you took that plunge after a glass or 2 of wine. You know,
everything's easier after a glass or 2 of wine.
Yeah, talking of which, I think it might be time to go and find one. But thank you, everybody, so much.
Yes, thank you. It's lovely to talk to you all.
All right, take care then. Bye.
Bye-bye.